Thank you very much. And our second speakers for tonight, very lucky and happy to have with us Mick McIntyre and 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐬𝐞𝐧𝐭 Clere, who are the directors of Kangaroo Alive. And I don't know if you saw Mick and Kate, but there's other lovely kangaroo people here tonight as well, which is great. Kate is a multi-award winning documentary filmmaker who brings together international social and environmental issues with beautiful cinematic storytelling. Her films include Gaining Ground, A Year on the Wing, Yogawoman, Aussie Rules the World, and A Hard Place. Kate's work has been reviewed in the New York Times, Variety, Los Angeles Times, and Woman's Day. Kate is an author for the Huffington Post and has contributed a chapter to a new USA book, Yoga and Body Image. And Mick was given a Super 9mm movie camera when he was 12 years old and has been making films since then. Mick has spent 35 years in the film industry, starting out as a driver, and spent 10 years as an assistant director on feature films before finding his passion making documentaries. He combines his skills as a cinematographer with producing and directing, and Mick's films include the award-winning Yogawoman, What to Do About Whales, and Aussie Rules the World. Mick and Kate, it is a joy to have you back with us again.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you so much. That was a lovely welcome, and let me recognise Animal Lib and all the incredible work you guys are doing. It's very inspiring to hear exactly what you're doing before we get to talk. And I'm going to start by telling you that we're coming to you from Gadigal land, and we also want to pay our respects to elders past and present, and particularly want to pay our respect to our friends, brothers and sisters of the Yuin Nation who are down the south of us, who we work in partnership with, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I'm just going to share our screen, so just give me a sec.
I'm excited.
Figure that out. There we go, share. I'm going to share that, and then I'm going to share that. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes,
can you see it screen? Okay, right, so I'll just press, I think it's that one. Yeah, okay. Look, we don't have that long, so we're not going to go into detail, but I thought we'd give a bit of background. I think nearly all of you will know that this is how we came to the kangaroo issue, through the Kangaroo love-hate story, and please let us know if you haven't seen it. We'll send you a link. But basically, Kate and I have spent 5 years travelling this great country, in fact the world, talking to stakeholders about this issue, and no surprise, we were shocked to the core on what we found out, and that's what we told in the film. And it opened to incredible reviews around the world. You know, it was reviewed in the New York Times and the BBC, and of course, when it was reviewed back here in Australia, it was a very polarising event. So in what was that? That was 8 years ago, and we're very pleased to tell you that the response to our work now is a lot different to what it was then. And we had hundreds of community screenings, literally hundreds. And as a result of these screenings, Kate and I were compelled to set up Kangaroos Alive, because we had learnt all this information and we just knew that we had to keep working on it. We just couldn't let go and go on to our next film. Because little did we know, and of course here we are still working on it 8 years later. The good news is we still get to make films, but obviously a lot of our time is now dedicated to this issue.
One of the first things we did was work, and during the film too, we interviewed Uncle Max Harrison, who's of the Yuin clan, and we had an amazing, he was such a teacher for us and hugely special leader, and really taught us about connecting to country and connecting to kangaroos. And so when Uncle Max passed, we stayed connected with Back to Country. It was and that was a really important part, and remains an important part of our work for all of kangaroos. In fact, in 2021, we worked with Uncle Max and the Back to Country people on the UN Declaration for Kangaroos. And this is the underlying principles we use for all our work. If you haven't seen that, it's on our website. But sort of a really important part of our work with Kangaroos Alive to recognise and thank and learn from Back to Country, the Indigenous people of Australia, and their close connection to kangaroos and country.
Yeah, I mean, they really are a totem to so many nations here in this country that we call Australia. And Uncle Max is unfortunately not with us anymore, but his work through Back to Country, as Kate said, shapes everything we do at Kangaroos Alive. Going back to the film, Europe is still the largest importer of kangaroo meat and skins. And when the film was released in 2018, we were invited by some very concerned MEPs, members of the European Parliament, to screen the film in the European Parliament. And you can see some familiar faces there. I'm sure you all know Mark Pearson and Dror Ben-Ami and
Lee
Rhiannon, ex-Green Senator, and that's an MEP on the right. And as a result of this screening, we actually helped set up a task force in Europe, because Europe is the largest importer. And as you can imagine, the Europeans were pretty shocked. So we set up a task force with the Eurogroup for Animals and those organisations that are listed there. So ever since, we've been working in Europe to bring about a ban, because they are the biggest market. And if we can bring about that ban, we will cripple the commercial kangaroo industry. And we're working on the precedent of the seal ban, which I'm sure some of you worked on. And so there is a precedent for doing this work in the EU. What's happened, and also since the film was released, we've had great success working with a number of groups to have, working with corporations that have learnt that, you know, there's blood on their hands if they use these kangaroo products. So all of those brands that you see on the screen have all stopped using kangaroo skins. So it's always good, isn't it, to just take a breath and focus on some of our victories. And this is a victory, because we basically have shut down the shoe industry from using kangaroo skins, and also fashion brands. And taking it further, our great NGO partners in Belgium and France and other places have basically stopped the largest supermarkets in Europe carrying kangaroo meat. So yes, it's good to recognise these victories. However, we're still working at a government level, so corporations are listening, but governments aren't. But the good news is Belgium is so far our best chance. And so we've been focusing over the last 2 or 3 years on Belgium. And I'm really pleased to say that we are getting close. I don't want to give anything away, but stay tuned, because we are close to getting Belgium to ban kangaroo, and they are the world's largest importer of kangaroo body parts. So, deep breath. I try not to get too ahead of myself, because there's obviously a lot of work to do. But yeah, so we're in Belgium a couple of times a year at the moment, and hopefully we'll be going back very soon when they vote on a proposed bill. So that's very exciting. And the idea is that when you have a national government, you then have precedent, and we're hoping that there will be some sort of domino effect. But legally, what it also does, it also triggers the European Commission to act because of market interference. And I won't go into the detail here, but basically if you get a national government to fall, and this is all based on what happened with the seals back in 2008. So we have precedent, so stay tuned. Thank you to everyone who's worked on this campaign. But this will be huge, and it will absolutely have a devastating effect on the industry, which is what we want. Just not forgetting that the USA is the second largest importer of kangaroo body parts. There are a number of bills that are before various legislators in America, including the Capitol. There's a Kangaroo Protection Act. But more likely, we will follow the lead of getting states to ban it, because California were the first state to ban kangaroo body parts back in the 1970s. They have tried to overturn it. In fact, they tried to overturn it this year in 2026, and they failed, because California is very proud of the fact that they have this strong wildlife protection that doesn't allow California being the 4th largest economy in the world, it's a fantastic ban for us because the Californian economy is a very important market for a whole lot of things. So we're able to keep that ban. So we're hoping through the various legislators that we'll get other states in the US to follow.
So Kangaroos Alive have set up a few different areas we're working in, and some are education, some are campaigns, some are programs. One of our fantastic education and outreach programs has been developing World Kangaroo Day, which we set up in 2020. This year, the World Kangaroo Day's theme is Revere and Respect, which is taken from, and every year the theme is taken from the UN Declaration, working in partnership with Back to Country. So across Australia and internationally, we work to celebrate kangaroos. It's been a really important event for lots of reasons. I mean, I think a key idea was to just start talking about how positive kangaroos are to Australia and to the world. When we were making the film, about 99.9% of all media on kangaroos was really negative. And we were just amazed how slanted and skewed media representation was. And in 2025, last year, we got 179 total media hits for kangaroos, and they were positive. It's amazing to feel the differentness of the positive response from media. It really makes a difference. And that reached over 12.3 million people. So that's a huge win for us. I mean, there's most of you have probably been part of World Kangaroo Day or know about it, but we have a fantastic schools program that's set up by Rick. The World Kangaroo Day has a new library program this year that we're really encouraging people to join library, to contact their local libraries to have a World Kangaroo Day event or table or video recording or multimedia setup. So all this is on our World Kangaroo Day website. We've got the photo competition, which has been hugely successful with we're really thanks to Steve Parrish and Anthony for being judges. And last year, I think we had over 1,000 entries. That's been a really popular campaign. And things like having to take photos, we've really outreach to a really different audience, we think. And so we've tried to move out of our echo chamber with that. The Kangaroo Walks and Talks program I'm going to talk about soon, but that's also something that's happens on World Kangaroo Day. And, we have big events like in the Parliaments, New South Wales, Victoria, Western Australia, or protests on the street, stalls at a local community event, screening of the film Kangaroo the movie, just all sorts of things that we really encourage people to do something on World Kangaroo Day that makes a change and gives people a chance to really talk about World Kangaroo Day. So that's an important part of our program.
Another thing that came from our working on the film was that we realised that people didn't really understand the perceptions of kangaroos in Australia. We got asked actually very early on in Europe by a member of the European Parliament, well, what do Australians think about kangaroos? Like, don't come over here and tell us what to do if you don't even know what Australians think. So in 2024, we commissioned Pure Profile to do some polling. And then, of course, we knew we'd have to do polling in Europe, and then we knew we'd have to do polling in the US because they're the biggest markets. And, you always get a bit nervous when you're doing polling. I'm sure you all recognise that because you're not sure what the results were going to be, but they were all incredibly positive. So we're very proud of these surveys, and we were able to use this in our advocacy and our campaigns. And it's been particularly important in Europe because we've extracted details from every country that has a market of kangaroos in Europe, and the same in Australia. We've extracted state-based surveys, so we can now talk to the state legislators about what their states think, and it's all positive. Over 2/3 of Australians want the killing to stop, which is a really positive thing to be able to tell our politicians, because obviously they listen to polling. Well, they should, because that's what matters to them, getting re-elected. So those are available for people to use as well. Also, two of our big reports that we've produced over the last 2 years have been on the welfare of kangaroos and on the myth of how many there are. So these are also been very important in our advocacy. The Global Declaration of the Kangaroo Welfare Crisis basically spells it out, that there is an animal welfare crisis within the killing of kangaroos. And over 80 organisations signed on to this declaration. Again, this has been really important in our advocacy work because it highlights all the cruelty that is now proven in the killing of kangaroos. And I listened with interest Lisa's presentation earlier about POCTA. Well, the kangaroo industry have their own code of practice, which is just an absolute disgrace because there's absolutely no monitoring of the killing. There's no monitoring out there in the bush where these commercial kangaroo killers are operating. So we've really rammed this home, and it's really making an impact because everyone hides behind the fact that there is a code of practice for killing kangaroos. But and thanks a lot to the New South Wales Parliamentary Inquiry chaired by Mark Pearson and Animal Justice Party, that there is no monitoring when the animal is killed. There's none. I'm not saying that slaughterhouses are any better, but at least there is some monitoring. I know it's not very good, but there's none with the commercial kangaroo industry. So we have no idea how the animal is killed, and we have no idea of how long it takes. So that's what came out of this declaration. And on the Counting Kangaroos, Fact or Fiction, this only came out late last year, and this is also very revealing because this is the New South Wales, Queensland and South Australian and Victorian government's own data. And so thanks to some fabulous analysts, we were able to point out the absolute bullshit that was coming out of these surveys, basically biologically impossible population growth. One of the most staggering figures that came out of this report was that less than 1% of the landscape was surveyed. I always have to say that again, 1% of the landscape is surveyed. And that's how they make their population estimates. I mean, that is staggering. And so that's from their own data. So that's what this report does. And again, it gives us this incredible knowledge to take to our decision makers, and it's particularly successful in Europe.
So we really have recognised in our work that the Australians' sort of willful ignorance and misleading science really, and that's on top of a sort of like a historic colonial apathy towards our wildlife, that this has sort of gone unnoticed. All this stuff for many, many years. There's been some fantastic people doing work along the way, but for the majority of Australians, the treatment of kangaroos has gone unnoticed. And we feel our work is really to change that on so many levels. One of the levels that we've really want to change is in the development of our Kangaroo Walks and Talks program, which has been developed over the last 4 years, I think, with the SCOMP, the Save the Kangaroos on the Mornington Peninsula, and Back to Country, and Dr. David Croft. We've been working out ways to encourage communities to see kangaroos on their landscape as a really positive, strong, valuable addition to their community. This is a real shift in perspective for kangaroos. We've developed a whole program that trains people to run our walks and talks. There's guides and scripts and facts and behaviours. There's whole kits to help people run. We've been running different training groups across the country to help them set up. And we encourage anyone tonight that wants to host walks and talks in their area to get in contact with us. We were involved with whale watching a long time ago, and when Australia changed from a whaling nation in 1978 and has become a really strong whale watch nation in the world, we feel like the same can happen with kangaroos. So if anyone is interested, we're really happy to back you all the way to help you set up kangaroo watching in your area, so we can really change the perspective and the care and the respect of kangaroos as part of your community.
Just on a national level, on an Australian level, we're doing all this great work in Europe and America. We also want to point out that the rubber hits the road here in Australia. It's a big year for New South Wales. That's the wonderful Emma Hurst who hosted us for a kangaroo briefing, because New South Wales is not only having an election in the next 12 months, it's also developing its new so-called management plan. And as an organisation, which would be for the years 2027 to 31. So unfortunately, we only get a chance to do things every 5 years, but this is the first time, well, our organisation believes that this is one of the first times where we're wanting to put into the management plan this idea that it's not all about killing. And I know the rusted on attitudes towards these management plans is just about killing. At least we're going to attempt to try and reshape the narrative that why are we just talking about killing of kangaroos? These are our national treasure. These are our New South Wales treasures. So it is a big year in New South Wales, and we're working to pressure the Minister for Environment and unfortunately the Minister for Agriculture and Primary Industries. So that is also happening. Same in Victoria. It's also a really big year in Victoria because they've got an election in as you well know this year. Same thing, the Victorian, this is an opportunity. And again, thank you to Georgie Purcell for hosting us at a Victorian Parliament briefing. And it's an opportunity with an election to talk to opposition, to get some traction. And Victoria is very interesting because Victoria doesn't have the rusted on attitudes that New South Wales and Queensland do because they only started commercially killing kangaroos in 2019. So it's a very different landscape down there in a positive way because the public are very up in arms about what is this? We never had this before. Why have we got it now? And the Victorian government is completely not reading the room on this. So we're hoping that it will be a big election issue.
One of the programs we've got coming up and we've been working on for a while behind the scenes is the Coexisting with Kangaroos. In some ways, all our work is about coexisting with kangaroos, but we're working with the University of Technology, Sydney, to find out, develop, understand, and really build coexisting on the land with kangaroos so that kangaroos and communities both thrive. We hope that this becomes something that governments can use, that rural, metro, and urban people can use to really know how to coexist with kangaroos, want to coexist with kangaroos, and have the skills to.
I remember just a personal share. I remember we were getting heckled. We did these hundreds of community screenings and we weren't afraid to do them in the bush. And a personal story was that we were getting heckled during a Q&A by a farmer, and good on him for coming. But afterwards, I sought him out to see what he had to say, and we weren't getting anywhere. And I just remember at the end going, "Well, okay, do you want them on your property at all?" And he goes, "Well, yeah." And I remember saying, "Well, what does that look like?" And that was a personal light bulb moment for me because I realised, oh right, we've got to have this discussion out there in the bush with landowners. What does having kangaroos on the landscape look like? And so this program is so personally for Kate and I, the crux of what we're doing with our work, because what does it look like having kangaroos on the landscape? Because right now, what it looks like is that we're going to lose them. We're already looking at regional and local extinction. So if we don't have this discussion of making it possible to coexist with them, then we are staring down the barrel of losing yet another fabulous wildlife species. We're just going to finish with Save the Whale. As Kate mentioned, we have worked a lot with whale conservation. We made a documentary called What to Do About Whales, which again was life-changing for us. This year is very significant because we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of the moratorium on commercial whaling, which was one of the 20th century's biggest environmental victories. Again, good to focus on those victories. And so basically, what does that relate to today? Well, it's time for the same with kangaroos. We did it with whales. It's now time to do it with kangaroos, that we pause on the commercial killing. It's just insane that we have this commercial industry for kangaroos. It makes no logical sense. And so that is the crux of what our campaign work is, that it's time to pause on the commercial killing, have the robust discussions about what it means to have kangaroos on the landscape, but we can't have that while there's a commercial incentive to kill them. 10 ways to protect.
I think these things are on our website, on the Kangaroos Alive website. We really hope you can encourage other people to join. Like, there's so much information there. Please go to our website if you want to find out anything more, or reach out to us. There's so many materials for World Kangaroo Day, for the Kangaroo Walks and Talks program, for everything you're interested in, rescuing kangaroos off the roads. Just we're really interested in helping you help the kangaroos. The other thing we have is our Christmas in July program coming up. We just posted about this today. We'd love you to join us if you're in Sydney at the Chippo to fundraise for us and for our work. We're excited to see you there and talk more kangaroos and do lots of fun things on the day. So thanks so much, Animal Liberation, for having us tonight, letting us talk, and we're happy to answer any questions at the end.
And big shout out to Rick Alport, who's on this webinar. I believe I can see you, Rick. Big shout out to Rick, who runs our KWAD, our Kangaroo Walks and Talks, and World Kangaroo Day. Big shout out to Rick. You're doing great work. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. You're getting loves and claps and all sorts of people have been blown away by this. And I personally just learned so much. The innovative ways in which you've gone about trying to save these beautiful animals, it's just mind-boggling. It's truly incredible. It's just, from grassroots to EU platforms and beyond. It's just magnificent. Thank you for all that you're doing for kangaroos. It's just incredible. And just a little personal aside, I had the great honor of meeting Uncle Max myself, and I will never forget him, ever. A glorious human being. And so thank you. You two always just give the most wonderful presentations, and the work that you're doing, be it vegan cooking or saving whales or saving kangaroos, it's just exemplary. It's just amazing. I'll be able to take, if you don't mind holding on, we've got comments in the chat box, and we can take a little bit longer with these because our third speaker sent a message to the chat box saying that she was really unwell. She thought she was going to pass out. So we'll be finishing a bit early tonight. So I'm just going to start reading out some of the chat box. And okay, sorry. There's a few here. I'm just scrolling back to the beginning. Okay. Okay, so the first one is Kara's just left a link. Thank you, Kara, for always being on top of these with regards to POCTA and how you can assist in making your complaints about their distressingly inadequate proposed legislation, and also, of course, demanding an independent Office of Animal Welfare. Other people like Nikolai have just given thumbs up, Lisa. And Susan Sorensen, thank you, Lisa. And from Sam, I'm not sure if that's Sam, male, female, or other. You asked if you could ask a question verbally. I'll get to you in a minute, Sam, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. Lara Shaw, such great work. To Lisa. And from Lisa Ryan, brilliant work, Mick and Kate, and Uncle Max. Yeah, he was a hero who led with dignity. And Lisa said she's interested to know about the US bill and the new focus in Italy with the racing car industry. Ooh, that's a good one. Can either of you take that?
Yeah. The MotoGP campaign literally has just been launched. It's so fresh, we're not even really publicising it yet, but more to come. More to come on that. So basically, the campaign to stop the shoe companies and the fashion brands was so successful. There's still work to be done, but our partners in Europe were very keen to know what's next. So yeah, we came up with this idea that take on the MotoGP, which uses, unfortunately, a lot of kangaroo skins in the motorbike industry. It's literally just
Clothes
happened.
and
Basically gloves and
Oh my Lord.
parts of their jackets, and yeah, it's quite big, and literally it's only been launched in the last month, and we've had great success. Thank you for the prompt. So yeah, stay tuned. We have yeah, I'm not going to say too much more on it because we're still in the in the planning stages. But yes, it has been launched in Italy. We were helped with the campaign at the MotoGP in Italy a couple of weeks ago. And again, it's common sense. We've already got an ex-world champion that's speaking up against this.
Oh.
Again, it's common sense. We feel like this is going to be another successful campaign.
I think once brands get to know that about the kangaroo issue, which many of them don't, they really do feel connected to the kangaroos suddenly, and the story of the kangaroos,
particularly the baby joeys,
the animal welfare issues, the killing of baby joeys, and they want to pull out, and that's what happened to many of the industries that have already stopped using kangaroo skins or meat.
But thank you for the prompt. Yes, stay tuned. There's more on that later, and there'll be an opportunity for public participation in that, I think.
Thanks for the question, Lisa. And yeah, it's just been so exciting to see one by one, like dominoes, they've just been falling. It's just so heartening. And my awareness was Adidas was one of the most recent.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is from the Adelaide Hills Kangaroo Rescue, raising awareness about how amazing they are. And I think that was just a big star and comment.
Big shout out to Linda and at Animal Hills, Adelaide Hills. They are amazing inspiration to us. So thank you, Linda. Your work is incredible. You guys, along with so many other wildlife carers in Australia, are the reason that we can do our work, because you're on the front line looking after these kangaroos after they've been shot or after they've been hit by cars. So big shout out to Adelaide Hills. Thank you.
Oh, that's lovely. Rick is responding. Hi, Simon. We use World Kangaroo Day to... I'm so sorry. This thing is hard to maneuver. And show the positive things about kangaroos and macropods. The photo comp shows how wonderful kangaroos are and gains the attention of people. We do many other things with protecting kangaroos, with Kangaroos Alive, which focuses on the horrors of the industries and how we can change it. Plus, sorry.
Yeah,
anyway,
thanks, Rick. No, it's an interesting point, because we do, not that we don't work on those issues, but we do try and use World Kangaroo Day, as Rick says. He's the coordinator. He knows this better than us. We do try and allow it to become mainstream. We're very proud of the fact that I think we had 78 radio news mentions last World Kangaroo Day. So the radio stations get on and say things like Happy World Kangaroo Day. Like it's like we're sort of infiltrating, the mainstream by this sort of this positive day. So it's a very interesting result that it gives people an excuse to say even that, Happy World Kangaroo Day, and it's an intention to do that.
Yeah, it is. And you're right. You mentioned earlier on in your presentation that the perception of kangaroos is changing quite rapidly. And it was so heartening for me and for everybody here tonight to know that the majority of Australians want the commercial kangaroo slaughter to stop. That was just really heartening.
I know, you can imagine what that was like for us. We felt like we were the next day when we got those results. You can imagine psychologically how much that lifted us, And
I think sometimes the people with the loud voices, the industry that, has the money and the power to say what our narrative is, we can feel like maybe that is our narrative. And it's great to actually do a survey on these projects to make sure that, oh, hang on, you're not saying that right. So when we talk to media and when we talk to, decision makers, we can actually use the surveys to say, well, 97% of people think this, 79%, these are your people. Well, this is what we think. You don't just listen to the industry and the associations.
Well, it's the minority now.
And the minority that want to slaughter kangaroos off the landscape.
That's just really exhilarating. Those are big numbers, and I sound like Gough Whitlam. I'm very proud of my fellow Australians for that.
Well, so you can also use those numbers. They are up on our website too, so you can look in the campaigns and have those numbers for yourself. We have put them up repeated over the time on our social media pages, but please gather them. So when you're having your own conversations in your own communities, use them, because it's really good to have a few solid facts up your sleeve to use in conversations, especially with people who are linked to farmers and linked to sort of a more colonial perspective of wildlife. It's great to be able to have facts and figures up your sleeve to sort of stop that colonial historic narrative we have around wildlife.
Absolutely. And I saw in one of your photographs the lovely Mary Morrison. Yeah,
she's doing great work for us.
Mary is our campaign manager, and we're so pleased to have her. And she's doing great work. For those who know, you'll know the standard of her work. I missed a Eurogroup task force meeting tonight to be on this webinar, and Mary chairs that now. So that's how fantastic work she's doing. So
I was on an Animals Australia board meeting with Mary, and she said she had to go a bit early.
That's why. That's why.
Lisa Ryan is saying, one concern I have is how we humans, and especially in Australia, God, I'm so sorry. I've got to find a new way to do this. Lisa, do you want to speak up? Because I've just lost your chat box thing.
I can. I can't remember exactly my question, but it was, there seems to be this strange disconnect where not just the traditional conservative conservationists, I like to call them, but those who love wildlife, they have a very different perspective and response to cruelty or suffering of koalas than they do to kangaroos and wallabies. And it's almost like, and even though we all know that, when Australia was first colonised, that koalas were also hunted for their skins for a period of time, and there were hundreds of thousands slaughtered, and then that stopped. But it's almost like the narrative by the industry and the government about this is good for jobs, good for economy, good for Australia's export market, that the suffering of the kangaroos sort of got lost in that. So I don't know if you've got a view on that or a comment on that. And obviously all of the unbelievably powerful work you're doing is hitting back at all those negatives. But do you have a view on why there is, and I see it around me all the time, people have a different attitude to koalas than they do to kangaroos and wallabies?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back when we researched the film. I remember the first time we went out bush, we went out Western New South Wales and Western Queensland, and we thought we were interviewing, I remember interviewing what I thought was a progressive journalist from one of the regional newspapers, because I thought, I'll get an attitude towards kangaroos, and all she wanted to do was tell me how much she hated them and how much they needed to kill them. And we were like, and we came back to the studio with this interview going, whoa, okay, we need to really deep dive into where these attitudes come from, because she was a progressive woman. She had very progressive views on all sorts of conservation issues, but on kangaroos, oh my God, no, the only good kangaroo was a dead kangaroo. So that's what we do as documentary makers. We have to examine why that attitude exists. And so we came home and we started to research. And it goes right back to white settlement. And if you look at some of the early writings from when the white settlers first arrived, and this attitude towards kangaroos was extreme. And unfortunately, it tied hand in hand with their attitude towards our fabulous First Nations brothers and sisters. Yeah. But there was this attitude that they were a problem that needed to be literally gotten rid of. And they actually had permits that allowed them to kill both with one permit. So it goes that far back, and so that generation to generation belief system still exists today. So that's what we found, and that's what we explored in the film.
We also notice that koalas get quite a good rap now, but I think, you know, what our work is to really reframe that for people, and to reframe the whole concept of the sentientness of kangaroos, the familial lifestyle they lead, the, you know, beautiful animals that they are. We really have to. It's just sort of this sort of lazy sort of idea, I think. Maybe lazy is too strong a word, but kind of like historic way we've seen them.
You like to say willful ignorance.
Willful ignorance of, and, you know, so many people don't even know how kangaroos are treated, and that we're losing them in local and regional extinction across the country, and that the treatment of them is being so headed up by the industry now, of, you know, just killing them for money. So
But having said that, you know, campaign 101, right? Campaign training 101. You get the public on side, then you get the companies, because they're the consumers. Then the decision makers come last. I mean, that's basic campaign training, right? And so when we went to the companies have listened because they don't care about the rusted-on attitudes.
Yeah, look, I like your reference to the lazy thinking, the easier thinking. I absolutely agree. I think that's spot on, Kate. And I think it does. My view is that it does go back to colonisation and those British attitudes that came in and have been, you know, born down generations. And more recently, and Australia has, you know, every time there's a natural disaster, a bushfire or a flood, there is this huge money raised for the farmers, particularly the animal ag farmers, not so much the crop farmer, it's the animal ag farmers. And they're often the worst enemy to the kangaroos, because the kangaroos are competing for the grasses and everything else. And it's almost like they hear from the farmers there is this overpopulation of these roos. You know, they're killing people on the roads. They're everywhere. They're in plague proportions. And when the general public, because they sort of have our animal farmers up on a bit of a pedestal, you know, they feed the nation, they can do no wrong. Oh. And when they're hearing that narrative from the farmers, it just sort of sinks into their head, and that thinking becomes entrenched, like milk is good to drink, or you have to have meat if you want, you know, strong bones. It's the same sort of thing.
Yeah, and we're very determined as an organisation to come up with solutions for that. We certainly aren't taking on the farmers in this response. We want to work with the farmers. I mean, we often get, I think the media try to trap us all the time, trying to tell us that we're anti-farmer by, you know, wanting to stop them killing kangaroos, and we say no. What we need is a pause on the commercial killing of them, and then have these discussions about, with landholders, with farmers, what does it look like farmers having kangaroos on their property? Because that discussion has never really happened in Australia, and we're not shying away from it. It will be tough. Don't get us wrong. We know that will cause a lot of, you know, angst amongst people having those discussions, but we've got to have them, because if we don't include the landholders in these discussions, then it's just going to be polarized all the time, and we're going to lose them. They're just going to keep killing them, and we're going to lose them. So
yeah, I mean, I think not only with landholders, but also just with urban development, and, you know, the idea that you would kill a population of kangaroos because somehow
you want to build houses.
Somehow they're being squished, you know, in Canberra, for example, where they've, you know, urbanized, and then blaming the kangaroo for the loss of some other wildlife. You know, like somehow the kangaroo always seems to be the first one to go without saving, without really researching any other ways. It's like the first cap of the rank is kangaroos must go. And, you know, there's many scientists and other conservation groups that still are pro kangaroo killing for, you know, to solve problems, to solve the grass, to solve the drought, to solve the urbanization, to solve just anything you want, really. It's really the poor old kangas who are just the most beautiful creatures.
I think I need to point out too, Lisa, it's related to what you were saying about some of the rusted on beliefs. I do want to point out that we have been told to our face that some of the major conservation groups in this country won't work on this issue. So I do need to point them out, and I'm not going to name names, and then when we press them on why they won't, it's because it's sort of like it's too controversial and they don't want to lose political capital.
Yeah.
That's like, what the?
Yeah.
And I know you guys come across that all the time, so you guys relate to this, but that's a big issue for us, that the big groups aren't. And I will give a big shout out to Animals Australia, because they are the exception, and good on them, because they are taking on this issue, and thank you, Animals Australia. But the other groups, it's literally too hard and too controversial, and until we resolve that, and that's why we're coming up with these solution-based programs, so to entice these big groups that have the money and the reach to make a difference.
Yeah. It's no different to, and I have a great deal of respect, and I just think they are the finest of human beings. Greens like Abigail Boyd, David Shoebridge, Maureen Faruqi, they walk and talk and chew gum at the same time, and they just, they're vegan, and yet, for decades and decades, from Bob Brown on, they won't even look at it. They won't even, it's like, no. I've got one more here from Simon, who is responding to a comment that our Rick made. And he says, I know I am involved in the campaign to stop the killing of kangaroos since 2002. I lived in Victoria, Australia from 1970 to 1992 and returned to my country of origin, Croatia. Petitions to protect kangaroos do not get tens of thousands of signatures and are run by smaller groups and organisations rather than larger organisations such as PETA. So what are your thoughts on petitions? I know that you've got letters and a myriad of other ways of reaching people. What are your thoughts on petitions?
Yeah, petitions are great. I mean, I'll take this on notice, what the petitions we have on our website at the moment, but no, petitions are great, and welcome suggestions on what could be next, etc. That they're worth it. I mean, I know we've had petitions running in Europe, because Europe have very particular requirements for petition numbers before they're even looked at, and so we work with our partners in Europe. We're totally open to the idea of petitions.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
I want to give a big shout out to the Victorian Kangaroo Alliance in Victoria as well. I just want to recognise what the great work that Alyssa and others in the Victorian Kangaroo Alliance are doing. We're very pleased to be partnering with them on a number of issues in Victoria. So good on you guys. You're doing fabulous work.
Absolutely. Susan Sorensen says, thank you, Mick, Kate and Rick, for being there for, I think it's the beautiful kangaroos. Okay, so I reckon that's about it for now. I'm just going to follow with a very quick bit of housework, but it's been a joy having you on tonight. Really, just
Linda, can I ask a quick question or a couple of questions?
Yes.
Sorry, it's Sam, and I know I've just been babysitting my son and daughter, so haven't been able to type too much. But I had questions for both Lisa and wonderful Kate and Mick, and two questions for each of them actually. And just to put out there at the beginning, I'm a passionate long-term vegan. I have the Kangaroos Alive Love Hate Story t-shirt that I wear very proudly. Also the Animal Lib t-shirt that I wear very proudly. So that's the first bit. But in terms of the animal cruelty stuff, Are there any international examples of, progress, legal progress on this? And I guess what can we learn from those countries where they're making big inroads? And the second question was, what's the average response in Parliament from MPs to the kind of very rational presentation of the facts, like obviously comparing dogs and pigs? You think most reasonable people can see that? When this content gets presented by the, animal advocates such as yourselves, what's the response from the average MP? And I'm not talking those who are seriously against animal welfare, but just the average MP.
Yeah, okay. With the first question, there is certainly coming from all different angles, Sam. So there certainly has been progress in countries that you would never expected to have brought in a ban against animal circuses, for example, places like Mexico. There are different. It's we often say it takes an army with a whole lot of arrows pointed in the same direction to be happening at once, which is sort of what Kangaroos Alive have demonstrated. There's a whole lot of stuff happening at once, and you're sort of bringing it to a centre point. So in Switzerland, they passed legislation last year, which became effective, I think it was the 1st of June this year, about food labelling and husbandry procedures. So all the animal food products now in Sweden, and it's sort of being transitioned in at the moment, have to have a label on there saying this goat had a husbandry procedure, like, short words, but making it really clear that there was a dehorning procedure done on a goat that's now a package, or that the pig had been castrated or had its tail docked. It's all about husbandry procedures, and it's all about making food labelling transparent. That is now weaving its way into the Swedish animal welfare laws. In the UK at the moment, primarily driven by, us naughty animal activists and covert filming, they have got a whole lot of stuff happening. There's been a lot of exposures about intensive piggeries and the pig gassing slaughterhouses. So they're now having all these damn inquiries over there, driving the British very conservative MPs nuts. But the vet board's now got on side saying, yep, you need to get rid of these sow stalls and farrowing crates, and you need to stop the pig gassing. And the pig gassing discussion recently came up in the EU as well. Now, the EU's position is what we expected. They're saying, well, there already are solutions. They don't have to use the carbon dioxide gassing because they've got options to use a different makeup of gas that's not as corrosive and doesn't cause as much suffering. So there is definitely progress. My observations, having watched the Parliament really, really closely from 2015 when Mark Pearson was elected, the first MP elected on animal welfare platform, is that they started out booing and hissing and all the rest and laughing at him and interjecting. Now, with a number of MPs, Emma Hurst, Abigail Boyd, other Greens MPs that we're working with, including in the lower house, that are putting up e-petitions for us about greyhound racing or rodeos or factory farmed animals. Like we're using every single one. They are, apart from sort of the Mark Lathams of the world, the normally conservative Liberal MPs, which are normally a little bit better behaved, they're actually listening. They're not doing the booing or as much jeckling as they were before. So, and I can tell you what, all of them since 2015 to now, so 11 years of having people talking constantly about animals at every opportunity, they have all been educated. I mean, even on Tuesday this week, we had Abigail Boyd put up a motion celebrating, making these publicly paid MPs listen to Abigail's motion congratulating Animal Liberation for reaching our 50-year anniversary, being the longest animal rights organisation in the country. And she rattled off a whole lot of our exposés and campaigns. And then she rattled off about the legacy of our founder, Christine Townend. Now, Labor were, we got an email from Abigail's office confirming, and we're going to put this wonderful motion she put up for us up on our socials soon. But Labor blocked the motion going up in normal business. You know, this happens every week in Parliament when it's sitting. They congratulate someone turning 100, or the Lions Club, you know, for making $100 in raffle tickets, or, you know, somebody's got some celebration. But Labor are so worried about the impact we're having, because we're hitting them hard. We are hitting them hard. I alone in our small team probably send 50 complaints to different MPs every single week. It's something we've got to keep on their case. I do think things are changing. I think we've raised so much awareness, particularly with our exposures. The exposures work. And yep, some of the stuff we do may not technically be legal, but it's the public have a right to know, and that's what we believe. And these animals have a right to be seen, and we have a right to rescue, and we have a right to honest, transparent government, and we haven't had it. So we're going to continue demanding it. I do feel positive. I do think things are changing. It is very slow, and we all have to be really patient, but I am very optimistic.
Yep, so same, Lisa. And I think that Mick and Kate made a really salient point, many salient points, but to celebrate, recognise, and just for a while sit with all the victories that have happened. And heaven knows Kate and Mick have had many of those. And I think, Sam, they've answered your question as far as kangaroos. And I mean, there's other things happening around the world, like the amount of circuses with animals is dying out, literally. And the tidal wave of countries that are banning cosmetics tested on animals, that's, you know, amazing. We've still got a bit of a way to go with that, but still, these are victories. And yeah, and just before I end,
sorry, Linda, do you mind actually if I do ask a quick question?
Just a quick one, please, Sam. We're going to wind up.
No, totally understand. And fantastic work, Lisa, and also Mick and Kate. So I just wanted to ask about the stats you shared, Mick, in terms of discussion with colleagues. So the 1% surveyed, you were saying that is seems crazy to only survey that much. Do you think that the scientists and the groups you're speaking to see that as reliably representative? And how variable do you think that is?
It's really confounding to all of us. It's the first time that basically in over a generation, it's the first time where anyone's even challenged this. Whew. So we're still coming to terms with it, because we always knew. I mean, when we released the film, we got a lot of questions from the media saying, well, don't you know that there's too many of them, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, we really needed to unpack. It was like an itch we needed to scratch to find out, because we knew by looking on the landscape that they're pretty much gone. Every Australian, you only have to ask Australians when they travel across the country. If there were millions, we would be seeing them every day. So we all know anecdotally that there's a problem, but this is the first time that we've really unpacked where they're getting these ridiculous numbers from. So I urge you to read the report and you'll get a better understanding, even if you just read the executive summary. But basically that's extraordinary. And not only that, they're exclaiming in their data that these populations are increasing by 400% a year. Like, it's just, it's mind-blowingly not possible.
Yeah, crazy. And this report's easy to find.
Yeah, if you go to
Kangaroos Alive,
it's on the Kangaroos Alive
under campaigns.
Under campaigns, yeah. And please,
and that should answer my second question, was going to be around, you know, when you talk to people who live and don't travel more regionally, so just travel, say, to Bathurst or Orange, and myself included, you'll drive and you'll see kangaroos dead by the side of the road, and sometimes you'll see them on properties. And so it's hard. It feels hard to back up the statement that, you know, they might go extinct. And so anyway, I guess I just need to read more of that.
Thanks, Sam. Thank you.
Once they're gone from a landscape, they're gone forever. And it's like so that's the important thing. Yes, there might be healthy populations around, but there's mostly not healthy populations around because they're gone.
And we have the unspeakable banner in the whole world, in Australia, of losing more native species than any other country in the world. So just before my final comments, before we wrap up, I just want to share that Cara, our colleague, says thank you so much, Mick, Kate and Rick. And she's also provided a link to Kangaroos Alive website, and also just the last one from Victorian Kangaroos Alliance. For any Melbourneians in the audience, love hearts. So I'm just going to finish up now because we've kind of run out of time. So just a last bit of information. Of course, you now know about Lisa's brilliant upcoming 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐬𝐞𝐬𝐧 documentary that will be screened in October. And on the 18th of July, we are holding a high tea commemoration for our founder, the late Dr. Christine Townend. And on the 1st of November, which happens to be World Vegan Day, we are having a 50th anniversary dinner at the Little Turtle restaurant in Enmore, and you'll see more details through our emails and social media. And lastly, our president, Anna Hall, who has many creative ideas, she's found another way of commemorating Animal Liberation's 50th, and that is to either donate $50 or share our 50/50 Facebook post or purchase 50/50 merchandise on our website. And again, we'll keep you posted via email and social media when that goes live. And thank you again so much, Lisa, Mick and Kate, for your wonderful presentation. So everybody stay warm, and hopefully we'll see you back here in a month. It's been great to see so many familiar faces joining the webinar. Yeah, I wish you all well. Thank you for being with us tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.